Hi. Welcome to the Human Design for Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Yvette Mayer, and this show's for you if you're done with cookie cutter marketing and ready to build your personal brand in alignment with who you really are. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to the Human Design for Marketing podcast, where we talk about all things personal branding, becoming more magnetic, and stepping into your personal truth so that you can express yourself on a high frequency. And frequency is the topic of the week. I have had a lot of experience with being in low frequency over the last 5 years. And I wanted to be a little vulnerable and honest about how that has impacted my business. So I'm going to first take you back to 2019, my very first year out of my corporate career. Now, if you've listened to this show for a while or you've been in one of my masterclasses, you have probably heard some of this before, but it is so relevant and valuable to this conversation. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper because I want to share with you the incredible, absolutely incredible impact of frequency on your business, be that low or high. So winding back to 2019, as I said, so I left my corporate career at the end of 2018. I had put aside a really healthy chunk of money, almost 6 figures, because I actually didn't quite know how I was going to make the whole entrepreneur thing work for me, and that it was going to take some time to figure out how to monetize my skills, my gifts, and do work that lit me up and felt liberating. That was what it was all about. And I was going to say dabbling, but I was deep in doTERRA at that time, essential oils, network marketing. And I was very hopeful that that was going to catapult me into replacing not all of my corporate salary, but taking me over 6 figures. And that's kind of what I bought into on the way into doTERRA. And that's absolutely possible, but it wasn't in the end possible for me, or at least at that time. Whatever the case, I think I'd been selling doTERRA for, I want to say a year. Yeah, a year when I left corporate. And I'd quickly grown to a high level in that business, high enough to be taken on leadership retreat by way of example. And the signs were very good, but actually, if I go deeper, the way I'd built my team, if you're an affiliate or particularly in network marketing, you'll get this. The way I built my team was very self-reliant. And so I couldn't work hard enough to create the income that I would actually require, if you like, to continue living the lifestyle. And that's kind of what happened. I thought, once I've got all the time to do this full time, things will quickly accelerate. And that didn't happen at all. My income kind of plateaued at around $2,000 a month. And at the time, actually, when I first left my corporate role, I was living in a penthouse apartment with a massive outdoor rooftop deck, Bondi Beach, like 5-minute walk from the beach, paying a lot of rent. And I also was carrying the surplus of a mortgage where the rent didn't cover. So I was carrying that even at the time when I left my job, because I had signed a lease before I realized that I was actually going to be leaving. So at this point, I'm like, I've got a healthy chunk of money, but it is going down quickly because I'm paying, I was over 5,000 Aussie in rent a month. And this is going back 5 years, nearly 5, and also paying the surplus in my mortgage. So financially, I knew I had to quickly turn things around or I'd end up back with a job, and I just couldn't do that. So after, I don't know, about 4 months, maybe in late April or May, I had a good hard look at my situation and I moved back into my house for starters, and I got serious about, okay, what are my other skills? Because doTERRA isn't materializing, or it isn't unfolding in the way that it is actually going to pay my bills right now, at least pay my mortgage and have enough money to survive on. And so at that point, I did a little bit of so studied health coaching. I'm a qualified yoga teacher, and I have 30 years of experience in marketing and corporate, and a very strong personal brand in that arena. So based on that, I came up with the idea of positioning myself as a well-being expert for corporate businesses that wanted to support their teams and improve their culture through investing into well-being. And I knew that the industry that I'd left, at advertising agency world, sorely needed this help. And so I set my sights as a target audience on advertising agencies or companies, media companies that sold to advertising agencies, where I had a lot of contacts to sell them. It was kind of like presentations, workshops, that sort of thing in this area. And if they had high-performing staff members that wanted one-on-one coaching in the health and well-being space, I would do that as well. And I thought, this is going to be so good. I'm going to fly. I'm going to fly. I was excited. I was like, right, I'm marketing through and through. I'm like, I know that LinkedIn is the place for me to do this. That's where all my people are. And I jumped in headfirst to marketing myself in this way online, and also reaching out to a lot of people that I knew in the industry. And I got a bit of traction. Like I really got a bit of traction. But what I found was happening was, even though my content was striking a chord and people were connecting with me and booking calls to chat, it didn't convert. So ultimately, someone that I knew somehow would be like, we need this. And then they'd go, or they'd have a meeting with me, and then they'd pitch it, and they would get a no, because they didn't have the budget. And this happened over and over and over again. Now, at this point, I had taken on the challenge, which had been inspired by somebody else online doing, of posting a video on LinkedIn for 100 days in a row, including weekends. And the content that I was sharing, well, sometimes it was very pointed at what I was offering, but it was also very personal development, reflection, deep kind of thoughts and thought-provoking, because it was every day. So I had to share things were coming up in my life, what I was doing with my business, how I was feeling, all of that came through. And what ended up happening was people started getting in touch with me directly for one-on-one coaching. And it wasn't health coaching. Like, there was occasionally somebody who wanted, like I worked with one beautiful woman who wanted to lose weight. We did that together. The next person that came along was somebody who was still in corporate over in LA, watching what I was doing and thinking, I want some of her, like I want what she's doing. So she came in as more of a support to leave her corporate career. And she is also a highly successful business coach these days. Then I had my next client was very much a life coaching client. And that's kind of how it started to unfold. I was getting clients 1 to 2 every month. Now, what I was charging, because I was brand new, was quite low. And by Christmas, so like this is from mid-year, by Christmas, I was super busy, but I was still only earning a few $1,000s a month. So I was still not earning enough to actually cover my mortgage. True story. And so I was freaking out, because that big pot of money I had aside was dwindling rapidly, and I couldn't see my way through. Like I knew that I needed to move into some form of group coaching and maybe do a course, like launch a course, that sort of thing. And I even tried to do that at around that point. Like, I remember, I think I made up that a program called the Lit Up and Liberated, it wasn't Entrepreneur, it was just Lit Up and Liberated program, and nobody signed up. I also did not know what I was doing around marketing, that sort of thing. And so I made it up as I went, and it didn't fly. That obviously pulled my frequency down, like, not obviously, but I was very disappointed about that. And then with the money running out, I felt very unsure of myself. I felt very not damaged. I was just being super mean. Mean girl was out in force to me. And I was panicking about, well, the money's nearly gone. What am I going to do? And I did not have the confidence to do something wild like sell my house at that point. I was very nervous about the safety, the security, line one, of my situation. And it was around that time, and I was still, by the way, I was past the 100 days, but I was still showing up on LinkedIn every single day, and I'd grown my following to like 10,000 people. So I was definitely high profile on LinkedIn, and things were working from an outsider's perspective. I certainly had clients coming in, but internally, my frequency was terrible. Like, I was in a place of, I don't know what I'm selling. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not making enough money. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And it was in this energy that a woman I'd met on LinkedIn, who was kind of like a networking friend, sent me a WhatsApp message, a voice message, and asked me if I had financial worries. And she said, I can really sense it in your energy at the moment that you're in scarcity, like you're not okay. And it's really normal. It's really normal where you are at this point in your business. And I would highly recommend that you get a job, like maybe a part-time job or a contract job, because it's coming through in your marketing. Now, my first gut sacral response to that was, who are you? Who on earth are you to tell me that I need to get a job? Spiraled into all sorts of shame. My second thought was, you're right. Oh my God, I can't believe that you can pick that up from my marketing. That's just frightening. My third thought was, I better do my CV because she's right. Now, at that time, I also decided to invest in doing Amy Porterfield's Digital Course Academy, because I had kind of learnt the hard way that I didn't really know what I was doing trying to launch a group program. And so I signed up for Digital Course Academy, started looking for jobs, and I kept getting I kept not hearing from people. So I was like, oh, I'm not really actually meant to get a role. Like, no one's even coming back to me. And I was trying to find roles that were nothing like what I'd left, but would actually feel more fulfilling to me. Like, I was a year into sobriety, so I looked at a position that was in marketing at a business that supports people in becoming sober. I seem to recall putting my hat in the ring for a marketing, was it a marketing or a coaching? No, it was a coaching role at Canva. Like, I was looking for really aligned opportunities, but I was hearing nothing back. And I just got busy doing the creating of my course. That's what I did. And again, so much pressure on myself. This has to work, this has to work, this has to work. But it did actually help me gain really valuable skills doing that. And I ended up going on to selling my first course, which was called Planet Happy, and it was a life coaching based course. I was so excited because I brought in, I don't know, maybe 6 people, and it felt really big. I quickly followed that by launching a business coaching course, because I'd had so many people coming to me asking how I was growing my business so quickly. They didn't know at that moment that I was still struggling financially. So thankfully it wasn't transparent to everybody. And so then I launched a how to set up and market an online business course as well. And I also invested in a one-on-one behavioral change coach at that point to help me with my worthiness, because I knew that, like, I was not okay. I was being internally, I was feeling very in my shadows. And that all added up. And it was my human design mentor, Emma. That all kind of happened, all unfolded at the same time, and led to me working with her and realizing that it was actually the business coaching that was the thing that lit me up from the inside out. Like, I felt more confident. My frequency was through the roof in that space. And that's a clue, right? When you're doing the work that you are meant to do, that is really aligned with your gifts and your talents, your skills, your experience, it massively amplifies your frequency, massively. And that was really true for me. The second I shifted into I'm a business coach wholly and solely, my business took off. I launched private coaching and sold 7 spots in a week. And suddenly I had a 10K month pipeline coming at me, which was like wildly huge for me at that point. And I went on to triple my revenue in a single year. So that was the results of my first big frequency upgrade. There was a massive quantum leap. And you would think, you would hope that that was just like that. The rest is history and it's been amazing. But no, that is not true, because I am an ambitious woman who thought that getting to 7 figures fast was definitely my destiny. And as I continued and I started to focus on digital products, having built my business so successfully with digital products, and as I continued, it got more competitive. Things felt icky. My business kind of flatlined and then actually went backwards. And I massively tipped out of my confidence base and into a low frequency vibe, massively. And this was actually only last year when and like, here's the transparent truth. I'd set up an annual mastermind, but it was a membership model. And so you could leave. You could leave after 3 months. And I'm a very optimistic person. And so I decided that people would stay and it wouldn't be a problem. But actually, people started leaving as soon as they could. And, as they would say to me, it wasn't anything you did. It wasn't your fault. Like, my financial situation changed, or I made a different decision, whatever it was. They had their reasons, but it pushed me into massively like doubting myself and shame, a lot of shame. I went into a huge shame spiral, sensing a theme here. And I got desperate. And I was already in a very, very high ticket mastermind. I signed up with a second coach and then did a second mastermind on top, because I was outsourcing this like rescue me, help me kind of vibe, trying all their strategies, like nothing's working. And then just like thinking that it wasn't meant to be. I went off to Bali for 6 weeks thinking, oh, surely that's going to be a frequency upgrade. And, people are going to, I'm going to be so magnetic when I'm doing the digital nomad thing. And it was, yeah, people loved my nomad content, but it didn't translate into more people coming into my business. When I got back from that trip, I remember at that time that I was putting offers out into the market, just trying to throw spaghetti at the wall, like trying to make things work, and nothing doing. Like, I'd sell something for $39 that I would tell you categorically is worth hundreds, and still I'd have very little take up. Ooh. And then I got COVID and fell into a massive health heap. Like, I was out of action, not out, but pretty out of action for weeks. And that's when I had my rock bottom moment of, should I actually stop trying? Like, this is too hard. I'm not enjoying it. I don't like this. I don't like who I am right now. It was pretty dark. And COVID had something to do with that. I always say you can't trust yourself when you're tired or you're sick, or at least you can't trust your thoughts. And as I started to get healthier, thankfully, I began to recalibrate. And what came through for me was this absolute clarity that I'd become so fixated on money as the measure of my worth, and that number that I earn every month meaning everything about who I am as a coach, that I was, in my own opinion, a failure over and over and over again. And it wasn't true. At that time, I had a mastermind with like 6 or 7 women in there who were loving working with me. I still had well over 6 figures in revenue coming through my business. But I felt like a failure, and I felt like nothing worked. And it was a good thing. It was the massive breakdown that I needed to appreciate that I had gotten off track around my values and around what was important. And I remember I was at my sister's house. They were traveling overseas at the time, and I was staying there because I help out with taking care of my mum when everyone's away. And so I was at my sister's house. I remember sitting at the dining table working, and I don't know, I sat back and I had this thought of, I love my work. I just haven't been doing it enough. I haven't been helping enough women. And also, if I can help people with my skills and experience to have a better opportunity in their business, and I'm very successful at doing that, isn't that the measure of my success? I clearly remember sitting there thinking that, and that was the energetic shift I needed to go through. And from there, things, not rapidly, but they did begin to shift. One of the things that came up for me around that time was I was like, I'm so sick of this digital product box that I've put myself in, when I'm not just that. Like, I'm enormously spiritual, already a human design reader who was doing that on the back end with clients. I am really very, very experienced in energetics and helping people to shift their own stuck energy. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to get paid to do that. And I knew that by doing that work that felt more aligned to me, that things may improve, but it wasn't a niche, And so I'm like, what is this? Like, I keep being told I need to have a niche. The digital product thing didn't seem to actually work for me. What's my niche? Then I latched onto the word polymath for a bit there, and I still to this day will tell you I am a polymath. I have experience, skills, talents, and gifts in many, many, many areas. And actually, Emma Dunwoody pointed me to the gene keys at that point and said, go contemplate your activation sequence and see what comes through. And I am a line 3 in my personality sun, which is life purpose in the gene keys. And when I read it and saw the words that my gift is synthesizing lots of things into something meaningful, I was like, oh, there it is. There it is. I'm not meant to like go deep and be the expert in one thing. I'm meant to be somebody who synthesizes many things. So I had that knowing. My frequency definitely began to shift at that point. I decided to launch a very energetically aligned program called the Spring Mini Mind. That was exactly this time last year. Spring, hello, in Australia at least. So I launched the Spring Mini Mind and I offered 6 spots. They sold out on the first day. Now, that was very, very exciting. That was like a massive shift from what I'd been experiencing. And at the same time, it also was my first foray into human design for marketing. And that piece wasn't strategic or intentional around that being something that I was necessarily going to focus on. It was more, okay, so why not, with this energetic based mini mind, do a 15-minute human design reading, but really look at human design to help them with their marketing. Made that up, had to Google it and figure out what the hell I was talking about. And fortunately, I came across a woman called Juliette Stapleton, who has been on this podcast back before I relaunched it. She's great, and she has a lot of experience in the human design and marketing arena. And I just started playing with it and doing some research basically, and synthesizing what I was learning and doing these mini readings. And the feedback was just phenomenal. And I felt my frequency rising again. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. People are finding this not just valuable, but they're having massive ahas and breakthroughs. I want to do more of this. And so I went back to my mastermind, which I think had grown slightly by then, because I told you frequency was on the improve. And I, was sharing how much the group was getting out of these readings. And they were like, we want you to do more human design in the mastermind. So then I presented a 2-hour masterclass workshop to that group of women. And it was, for the entire year, the most engaged, focused attention that I had experienced from my group. And I got to the end and they were like, oh my God, that was brilliant. And I'm like, wow, I'm actually like, there's something here. There's something here. But I still wasn't ready to do more than, do this kind of as an adjunct to my business coaching. But I was enjoying it. And then people started, because I was sharing what I was doing on Instagram, and people started asking me, are you doing readings? And I'm like, no. And then we got closer to Christmas and I thought, well, what would it hurt if I did do some readings? Like, maybe I'll enjoy it. And so I just offered, I think I offered 4 or maybe 5 at like $200 just to see what happened. They sold immediately. All of them moved immediately. And to people that had been in my world but had never paid me, more like peers, they just got snapped up. And then those sessions were a wild success. And I guess at that point I started to feel really like, oh, this is something I'm meant to do. I began to feel this, like I recall having the thought of Ra's pulling me in. I feel Ra pulling me into this, which sounds a bit woo, but that's how I felt. And so that was kind of all like in my energetic frequency. And I wasn't, like, I was telling people, look, I really enjoy this. I'm just going to do a little bit of this on the side, but I'm not changing the main focus of my business around intuitive business coaching. I'm going to do a bit of both. I'm a polymath, like, it's all good. And then it was the new moon just before Christmas last year, which was like I don't know if it was a super moon, but it was a very auspicious manifestation moon. And I took a walk down to the beach. I remember waking up, I wasn't in a high vibe mood. If anything, I was a little bit icky, a bit funky, and like not really wanting to go. And then I sat on the beach. Actually, before then, I walked on the beach for a bit and I started being surrounded by white butterflies. Like, I'm talking hundreds. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. What does that mean? So I thought, oh, when I sit down, I'm gonna have a look. I'm gonna Google that. And then as I got to my towel and laid my towel down, then I started seeing bees around me, and I'm like, okay, I'm being spoken to here. So I looked it up, and the white butterflies were like surrendering to transformation, and the bees were, it's going to be hard work, but you're going to build a community. And in that moment, I felt the undeniable truth that human design for marketing was my destiny. And I left that beach that day a different person, different frequency, different vision. Like, I was like, okay, it's clear. This is happening. This is what I'm doing. I also was very clear on, it's not a race. It's not a sprint. I want to do this properly. I want to build it block by block from the ground up. And it opened the doorway to so much so quickly around what I could see as an opportunity for me. And I set these intentions for 2023. So I was really in a place of all of that scarcity and those big financial goals. That's actually not what I'm about now. And I don't have financial goals. I have impact goals. I have support goals. I have profile. Like, they're my 3 things that I'm really focused on this year. And that also helped me change my frequency, because I wasn't in this chasing the money energy. I was in the let's make a really beautiful big impact energy. And with that, everything that I've done since has had an entirely different effect. So my frequency this year is unlike any other year in my business. There is no doubt about it. Like, if you look at every metric in my business, engagement, interaction, the number of clients coming in every month, like everything is pointing up. I'm not like leapfrogging income wise at this point, but I'm not focused on that. And I have a very strong faith that will be the consequence of everything else that I'm focused on. And I'm detached. Now, you might say, oh, well, that's all very well and good for you. You've obviously got a financial position where you can afford for that to be the case. Yes, but I had this same financial position last year. I had more, actually. I had more money in the bank last year than I do at this moment because I've been investing a lot into my business. But this time last year, or like a little bit before, when I really went to the bottom of the bottom, I had absolutely no financial pressure on me. None. I sold my house, made a lot of money. I've got a lot of money invested. My situation is very good. So yes, that does help. But I want to make this distinction for you. That was true when I had my lowest frequency moment too. It was about my mindset. It was about the way I was thinking about money. It was about my frequency around money. It wasn't the money itself. And one thing that I want to call out for you is if you are in a place where you have financial support, maybe it's from a husband, or maybe you're like me and you're a little financially independent, but you're still giving yourself a hard time about money, like I was, that shit's got to be cleaned up. Clean it up. It is ruining your marketing. It is taking you out of alignment. It is absolutely effing with you. I am the proof. I'm the absolute proof. That's the first thing I want to say with you. You won't have enormous success when you're in that scarcity place. The second thing, if you genuinely are struggling financially, I hate to say it, but that woman who sent me that message, she was onto something. Don't get to the point where you're desperate for money, because your desperation will damage your ability to create success in your business. If needs be, get a part-time job. Get a contract job. Like, go and do whatever it takes to restabilize your nervous system and focus yourself on impact. And from there, trust me, once you get to know yourself better, you make sure you're fully aligned to your differentiated, brilliant self, you have every opportunity to succeed. That's how you completely 180 your frequency, turn the dial right up. Now, added to that, help is important. Human design has been the thing that has helped me when I've had these moments of crises every time. And when I go back to this time last year, it was in the process of working with my design more and really applying my marketing brain to how I did that, that my frequency began to shift. And I started to really understand better, okay, how do I be the personal brand of somebody who is a sacral generator, 5-1 profile, line 3, gate 3 in my personality sun, gate 3 also in my Mercury. Like, what does that mean for my marketing? And the more I danced with that, the more aligned I felt, and the more magnetic I was. I mean, the things that have happened for me just in the last few months are mind-blowing. The manifestations that I said at the beginning of this year that are being realized is insane. And this is what frequency does for you. And in my experience, working with your human design and your personal brand is the fast pass to you getting on this road. And working with me, because I've been there, I've been you, and I want to support you. So to finish up, this week, the Frequency Project, yes, the Frequency Project is open for sign up. Right now, I'm coming to you, I want to say it's the 11th of September, auspicious date. We will be starting next week. So week of the 17th, 18th of September is when we're jumping in. The doors are open to sign up until this Friday, which is the 15th. It is going to be phenomenal. We've already got an amazing crew of women who have joined up. The last round, hopefully you've listened to Grace's podcast 2 episodes ago, and you'll get a taste for how magical this thing is and what is possible through the eyes of a participant. So Grace's episode 2 weeks ago will give you front row seat into that. I'm pumped for it. I can't wait. I am personally now inviting you in. Come join us. Come do this thing. Let's turn your frequency up. Let's get you into a place of clarity, alignment, and authenticity, and doing marketing that is actually fun, that you enjoy. All right. Thanks for joining me this week. I will be back with you soon, and I hope to see you in the Frequency Project. Bye for now. There are heaps more resources in the show notes. I can't wait to be back in your ears again soon. Bye for now.